One of the things that you have to make sure of with this is that you look for a GCF right off the bat. So if we're looking at this example 1, is there a GCF? Yes. What is it? A 3. So you can factor out a 3, and what you're left with would be x squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0. What do you suppose your next step is? The star. So we're going to do star method. Now we're working with our star from just this. Okay, so ignore that 3 out in front. We took it out. We're going to set up the star method with just the highlighted portion. What goes up top? A negative 4. Okay, what's your a value? No, not the 3. It's the 1. It's what's in front of what we just factored. So a is going to be 1. What's your b value? The b is a 3. That's this b value, not that b value. So b is 3. So you're asking, what can I multiply to get negative 4 that I could add to get 3? 4 and negative 1. Okay, so with that in mind, here's your 2 binomials. It's going to be x plus 4 and x minus 1 equal to 0. And there's this 3 out in front. Is there an x out in front? No, so this is not one of those x is 0 situations. It's okay to have a number here, but you cannot have an x out in front and not say x equals 0. This is not an x equals 0 type of situation. We're just working with the x's. So you're going to set it up x plus 4 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. So what are your answers? Negative 4. Take away the 4. So x equals negative 4. And then add the 1. So x equals 1. Okay. Questions on that?
So we do nothing with the 3.
You do nothing with the 3 because all our solutions are saying, what is x? What are my possible values of x? If there was an x here, then that x would have to be 0. But because there's no x there, then we don't have to say x equals 0. Okay? Okay. Go to example 3. Actually, you know what? We're going to do 2. Let's do 2. What do you see in 2? There's a 5 that we can factor out. So if I factor out a 5, I'm left with x squared minus 4x. No, that's not 15. That's 12. Minus 12. Okay. Now you set up your star. What goes on top of your star? A negative 12. Your a times c, your a is 1, your c is negative 12. So 1 times negative 12 is negative 12. Your a value is 1. What's your b value? Negative 4. Okay, and then ask yourself the question, what can I multiply to get negative 12 that I can add to get negative 4? Negative 6, positive 2. So from here, you have 5 times x minus 6 and x plus 2 equal to 0. How many answers are you going to have? 2. So you're going to take it from this, x minus 6 equals 0, and from this, x plus 2 equals 0. So this one adds 6, x is 6. This one subtract 2, so x is negative 2. Questions on that? Okay. Sorry, I don't remember if I ever took attendance. I did, but no I. Right? No I. Okay. Example 3. Is there a GCF? No GCF. So if there's no GCF, but there is a number out in front as your A, what goes up top? this times that. Okay, so that's a negative 10 up top. What's your a value then? What goes here?
2.
That's a 2. Okay. What goes on bottom? A positive 3. So now you're asking yourself what question? Because there's an a value. Remember when we did this last chapter? If ever there was an a value other than 1, then that number is going to go here. So it's been a 1 so far, which is why we put a 1 in there. But now we have a number in front of our x squared, so it's got to be that number. Did you have a question? Where did we get what? A times c. So here, let's do this. Remember the setup for star method? It's always a times c right here. Oftentimes it looks like it's just c, but it's not. It's always a times c. But if your a is 1, then it looks like c, right? But it is always a times c. So if I take a times c here and then b here, this will always be your a value. And then these are what did you multiply to get that top number that you can add to get the bottom number. Okay? So take a look at this. If example 3 is our setup, then we did a times c is 2 times negative 5, so that's negative 10. B is 3, so what can I multiply to get a negative 10 that I can add to get 3?
5 and negative 2.
5 and negative 2. Now, do you remember what you were supposed to do at this point?
Simplify.
You have to simplify. You have to reduce this guy. So this is going to stay. That's going to be 2x plus 5. But this one becomes 1 over negative 1. How do you write that? Your x always goes with the numerator. So it's 1x minus 1. Okay? So that's your new equation. Do you follow on that? Questions on that? Yeah.
If it's, say, like, in the homework how there's questions, like, should we simplify it? Because one of them's, like, 3 over negative 9. Should we simplify that and make it 1 over negative 3?
Like when you get to this point, should you simplify
Yeah.
it? Yes, you have to simplify it there or you're going to get the wrong answer.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so this one, now you say 2x plus 5 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0, and you solve them both. So this one's quick. Add 1, x is 1. This one, you've got 2 steps. Take away the 5. So 2x equals negative 5, and then divide by 2. So x equals a negative 5 halves, or if you like it better, you can say a negative 2.5. I don't care which one of those you do. Leave it as the fraction or leave it as the decimal. Don't round it. If it's like 1/3, don't call it 0.333. Call it either 0.3 repeating with the bar, or just leave it as a fraction. Okay? Questions on that? Okay. Last one of these, and then I'm going to have you try a few on your own. What? Probably a little bit of it. Okay, this one. What goes on top? First of all, is there a GCF? Sorry. No GCF. There's nothing you can take out of 8, 22, and 5. So up top is what number? 40. 8 times 5. A times C is 40. What's on bottom? A negative 22. Okay. What goes there? Those are A values. That's your 8s. Okay. So now you're looking for what can I multiply to get 40 that I can add to get a negative 22. And let me just show you on this one, since it's a bigger number, how I like to do this. Okay. If you can't come up with the numbers, do this. 1 times what gets me 40? Really, you're taking the number 40 and dividing by 1, and then dividing by 2, and then dividing by 3, and then dividing by 4 to see what you get. So 40 divided by 2 is 20. 40 divided by 3 doesn't work. 4 is 10. 5 is 8. 6 doesn't work. 7 doesn't work. And then you're back to 8. So you can get your list just by plugging and chugging in the calculator. Okay? Which of these are going to get me to a negative 22 but a positive 40? Negative 2 and negative 20. Okay, now here's the deal. Both of these need to be reduced. What does 8 over negative 2 reduce to? 4 over negative 1. What does 8 over negative 20 reduce to? If you divide by 4, you get 2 over negative 5. So those are your two. How do you write them? How do you write 4 over negative 1? 4x minus 1. Good. How do you write 2 over negative 5? 2x minus 5. Okay, so you're here, and that equals 0. That's the whole point, is we're setting this thing equal to 0. So now what? Set them both equal to 0, right? And solve them. So 4x minus 1 equals 0. And 2x minus 5 equals 0. And now we solve. So we're going to add 1. So 4x equals 1. Then divide by 4. So x equals, I would say just leave that as 1/4. If you write it as 0.25, that's fine. Okay, same thing on this one. Add the 5. So 2x equals 5, and then divide by 2. I would leave it as 5/2, but you don't have to. If you want to write that as 2.5, that's fine too. Okay, so if you wrote it as decimals, 0.25 and 2.5, you would get those two as your answer. If you write it as a fraction, there's your 2. Questions on that? Okay, we're not going to do more of these. I'm going to give you options right here. But before I give you those options, what would you do on number 9? You have to add the 2. 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0, and then solve. So if ever it does not equal 0, your first job is make it equal 0, and then you can solve it. Okay? Okay, here's your options. If you feel like I'm not quite sure and you want to practice a couple more before you do the homework, you're welcome to try any of these and check with me. If you're like, nope, I feel great, I want to do the homework, you can get started on the homework, okay? And I will just come around and help where help is needed, and I will hand back your quizzes.